All right, in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at checkbox or checkboxes. I guess it depends on how many you actually use. And then we're going to be looking at the documentation to see all the wonderful things it has to say about checkboxes. I'm sure that there's a lot of variants, sizes, colors, things you could do. It's one of those interesting little components there because you think, oh, I just click and there's a check. But there's so many different little customizations you could do to your heart's desire. So we're going to look at those. And then at the very end, we're going to be looking at, I think, about 4 examples. And let's get to looking at the docs. So here we see it says the checkbox component is used in forms when a user needs to select multiple values from several options. And so it also says native HTML checkboxes are 100% accessible by default. So we used a very common CSS technique to style the checkboxes. I'm not going to click that. I think it's a little bit out of the scope of this tutorial. But if you want to click, check it out, all the other good stuff, feel free to. So we can see the basic import right here. We have checkbox and checkbox group. And for the basic kind of out of the box usage here, we just have the checkbox component. Inside of here, we have some text that just says checkbox. And we have this prop right here that says default is checked. The default of this value actually is true, and that is why it is checked here. So we could do things like disable checkboxes, even if they are or not already checked. We could do it with custom colors here as well. As you can see, yeah, we have the stack, but that doesn't really matter. It's just a way for them to, intelligently space this out so it's easy to present. We have checkbox 1 right here, which they both say checkbox, but we can see that one is red, which is right here, and the second one is green, and all you do is just change the color scheme. And I'm sure there's other varying ways you could do it as well to change colors, influence colors, stuff like that, but color scheme is a very easy way to do that. There's also different sizes. We have past the size prop to change the size of the checkbox. Values can either be small, medium, or large. Sometimes you get extra small, sometimes you get extra large, but right here we just have these 3 in this range. And the small is pretty small, but I would say the medium and the large, it's if you're going to use these, it's either going to be the medium or the large mainly. I don't really see any big differences here, but that small is pretty small. So up next we have the invalid checkbox right here, and it's as easy as typing in the prop is invalid, which is pretty cool. We could also change the spacing here, and it's kind of weird that for this one it doesn't have like an example, which is kind of strange, but you can actually space out the text box or the checkbox from the text itself, so not everything's jammed together, which is really quite nice. And so we have changing the icon color and size. And so right here we have this icon color is blue, icon size is 1 rem right here. Once again, I kind of wish there was, they had this example going here, but in the tutorial example sections, I think I cover most of this enough. I've broke a lot of these recording clips up, so I actually don't remember what I already recorded, but if you need anything or have any questions, ask a question in the comment section below, or just, download it and test it out yourself. That's, I'm trying to show as much as I can without doing overkill, and plus a lot of this is just fun to go play with yourself. We have this indeterminate right here. This, as you can see, if you select any of these, it selects the parent checkbox. So it's kind of a way of, if you check one, you check this, and if you check the parent checkbox, it like unchecks the children. This is just a way really of handling the state of the checkboxes here. For right now, I'm not going to discuss this a whole lot, but yes, you can and you should catch what is clicked or what is checked in a checkbox, because you're going to want to do something with that information. And then here we have this hello world, and we have this plus right here. And so you're able to actually add an icon into hello world, or into the checkbox, I should say, right here. And that's also a nice way, because sometimes, you come up here to this example, there's that check. But sometimes it's not just a check. Maybe you have a restaurant app and they're asking for extra barbecue sauce, right? and you want to click this, and rather than a check, maybe it's equally acceptable to have a plus right here to show that it is added to the order. And then we have this checkbox group right here. I think they really like Naruto at Chakra, and this is a way to group, even if there's like an H stack or another kind of layout component in here, it groups them all together, which is really nice. And the default value, you can see this array right here. So Naruto and Kakashi are already clicked. So that's why when we came down here, you know, this was left out. Let me refresh this and I'll show you. All right. So now that we're back here, we have Naruto and Kakashi. Refresh the page, and we can see that Sasuke, pardon me if I'm butchering these names, is not. So you could even have the array in here in the checkbox group, which signifies what is already checked. We have the values in here, and we have the color scheme, which as you can see is green, is being dispersed down below. If we actually read up here, it says Chakra exports a checkbox group component to help manage the checked state of its children checkbox components, and conveniently passes a few shared style props to each. See the props table at the bottom of the page for a list of shared styling props. Then we have hooks. We have the use checkbox hook is exported with the state and focus management logic for use in creating tailor-made checkbox component in your application. And then we have the use checkbox group. This is really weird to say together, but it's essentially doing the same thing, but for the group there. And then here's all the props down below. And feel free to come back here, and I'll say this in nearly every video, to come back and check and see what stuff is not covered in the explicit docs, in my videos and other people's work, because there's a lot you could do with these things, and sometimes it's just not as visually broadcasted out there. So with all that, hopefully I don't screw up the word checkbox anymore. Let's just get to the coding examples. In this first example for checkboxes, what we're going to do is put them in a VStack and then just make some basic ones, and from there we're going to add some more attributes on. I typically don't like the theory of showing you the checkboxes, even if it's like a simple example, and then I add a billion attributes that could be thrown in there, because I kind of like to break the stuff up. So let's do the first of 4 here and get rolling. So we see right here, the VStack is really just spacing these out. If I just had the 2 checkboxes right here, they'd be all smushed up and it just wouldn't look visually appealing here. So we have the checkboxes. We could click them. Totally functional. So let's just do a, what if you wanted to, say you had some data, right, somewhere in your process, in your service. We wanted maybe an option that the user already selected. So how do you default check something like this? And we just do it like this. And yes, there's some weird connection between Visual Studio Code and my browser. When I do this hot reload here, it doesn't always catch, but we see with the default checked that over here, we could still toggle it on and off, but when it initially loads, we get this, which is set to true, to check right here. Now, another thing we could do is say somewhere in the service, the website, whatever it may be, that they choose something or take an action or have something about their online presence that disables them from selecting an option. So let's say, for instance, they've already won $1 million from us. And if you win $1 million, you can't win anything else from us for another 10 years. So they can't enter to win $1, right? Wouldn't it suck to, what kind of personality do you have to win $1 million and come back like, I really need this $1? So we come in here and do is disabled. And since I'm the millionaire in this case, I can't enter to win $1. So that's how you do default checked and is disabled. And in the next section, we're going to do custom color, how to use color schemes, and then the different sizes you could use for checkboxes. All right, so now that we're back here, let's go and look at let's just do the color schemes first. So I'm going to make another one of these just because there's more than 2 sizes you could have in checkboxes. So now that I have 3 checkboxes here, I removed is disabled just because why keep it around? So, and the default checked, I don't mind having that lingering on over. So let's do the color schemes. As we look here, we see teal, Messenger, white alpha, WhatsApp. So it's a mix of the popular, Facebook, Messenger, LinkedIn colors, but you could also have your just typical gray, which I'd be careful with gray if we were to save this, because gray looks very close to it being disabled. So gray isn't a bad color. You just have to be cognizant of what you're using it for. Whereas if I have this green, everything is good here. If I have a red, maybe I did something wrong. So I'm just going to keep it as red because no harm in doing that. So we have this cyan color right here, and then we have purple. So now that we have these set up, let's go in and work on the different sizes. So small obviously gets smaller. Medium is the default. Nothing has really changed with the medium size. It'd be kind of weird if you didn't specify the size and the non-specified size was different than small, medium, or large. So obviously it makes sense for the medium to be the default. And then we have large right here. And these are the ways that you could change the colors. You could give them a different size. Obviously these are all boxes at the end of the day, so you could customize them even more. So in the next section, what we're going to do is we're going to work with the errors, spacings, and then see how we could add icons in here. So what we're going to do here is add let's just go ahead and add the icon on in here. So let's do this first because we're going to use it at the very end of this example. And so Visual Studio Code here is intelligent enough to know that I wanted phone icon. I've also used it, I believe, in other tutorials, or have used the UI icon. So if my stuff auto completes, it's maybe because there's some cache somewhere or I'm just lucky. But at any point, if you don't know what's going on, just do what we all do and pause the video or just drop a message in the chat. So we have this phone icon right here. And let's say, let's just go to it first here. Let's go to this last little bit right here, and let's just go ahead and add the icon in at the bottom because this is large, so this should be a bit easier to see. So we just inject that straight in there. We see that this churns into a phone icon now. So when you click, it turns purple. There's this phone icon. Now I'm kind of at a weird crossroads because I believe if you check a checkbox, there should be a check. But maybe you have some other kind of design need or a bit of functionality that may be accentuated better with a phone icon or any other icon you want to put in here. But just be careful when you do stuff like this because it's cool to you and you understand it, you make it, but when you give this to someone else, they may have no clue like what the hell is going on here. So just because you could do it doesn't mean you should always do it. So let's look at spacing. What does spacing do? Well, let's just do a quick example here. As we see right here, we had one REM right here, and it pushed the checkbox further away from the actual text. We click, nothing happens, which is good. What if we wanted to do something like 10 pixels? We see that it shrinks a little bit more. Let's do 100. And we see that it's really, really far apart. And this is really cool because this is a very, very quick way to maybe line up something that you want, because sometimes you'll have a bunch of stuff aligned, but there'll be maybe some little stylistic things where you're like, if this was over 2 pixels more, this would be more appealing on the eye, maybe in the mobile setting. And this easy attribute right here allows you even to just kind of nudge things left and right just to look that much better. And that's really what I like about Chakra. So in the next section, what we're going to do is we're going to look at errors, because I forgot to do it in this section, and I'm already announcing we're going to the next section. So we're going to do that, and then also look at a checkbox group. See you there. So what we have right here is the checkbox group. Sorry if it looked a little funny there for a brief second. I actually realized that the code snippet I had originally had an error in it, and then I was left wondering, like, what's going on? So we have our checkbox group right here. We save it. You can see that it looks like this here, and it looks okay, but you notice stuff is a little jammed up right here. So how can we fix this? And it's very easy. So we're using a VStack. Let's switch this to an H stack. So we could come in here, and now you see that it moved a little bit to the right. Let's move this a bit more. And that looks relatively nice. You know, it's still jammed up to the left side of the window here, and that's fine because this will most likely be in some kind of grid, flex box, wherever else. It's not going to be just a series of checkboxes for whatever it is you need to do. But what is the benefit of the checkbox group? Well, if we wanted to do something like this, we could come up here and we could do is disabled. And that'll cascade all the way down to here. If I wanted to do, size is small, well, it's overridden right here. But what if I wanted to take all the larges off? We see that they all shrink down to small now. And so it seems that whatever you could do with the checkbox, you could do with the checkbox group, and it'll just cascade all that stuff down so you don't have to type the same thing over and over if you have a lot of common features amongst all your checkboxes. But that's checkboxes in a nutshell. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy what I'm putting out. I love making these videos. It's a lot of fun for me, and hopefully I'm helping some of y'all out along the way. So see you in the next video.